Founded in 1866, the American University of Beirut overlooks the Mediterranean Sea in Ras Beirut, one of the Lebanese capital's most cosmopolitan neighborhoods. The campus is home to world-class researchers, guiding some of the region's and world's most gifted students. Entering campus via Main Gate, you come upon College Hall, the preeminent symbol of AUB, which houses the offices of the president and other faculty and administrators. Behind this is Javits Memorial Library, the main library on campus. The upper portion of AUB's campus runs along the thoroughfare of Bliss Street and contains our most historic buildings, many built in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. At the eastern edge is the Medical Gate, and inside are Van Dyke Hall, housing the Faculty of Health Sciences, and the Diana Tamari Sabach Building for the Faculty of Medicine. Post Hall is home to AUB's world-famous Archaeological Museum. The magnificent Assembly Hall is a former chapel that is now used for major university events and concerts. The western end of Upper Campus is home to the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, the largest faculty at AUB. Central Campus also includes the main cafeteria and Adadaj Hall and West Hall, which is a hub of student activities. The buildings on the quad surrounding the beautiful green oval reflect architectural influences ranging from Ottoman era to postmodernism. These include the historic buildings of Nicely, Jessup, Fisk, and Bliss Halls, as well as the newly constructed home of the Sam Ferris Institute, designed by Zaha Hadid. Moving to Lower Campus from the old observatory, you can see the green field, another landmark, and AUB's beach next to the famous Beirut Corniche. To the west are the Faculty of Agricultural and Food Sciences and the Biology, Physics, and Chemistry buildings. Surrounding the athletic field are the Charles Hostler Student Center and the Suleiman S. Olayan School of Business. Moving east, there is the Faculty of Engineering and Architecture with the new Irani Oxy Engineering Complex, Bechtel Building, Dar el Handasa Architecture Building, and the CCC Scientific Research Building. Finally, to the southeast is the AUB Medical Center, a standalone complex and the site of much of the region's most significant medical breakthroughs. The complex also houses the Hariri School of Nursing and the Saab Medical Library, one of the region's oldest libraries.
كيف يؤثر تلوث المياه والهواء والبحار وتغير المناخ على الصحة في المنطقة العربية؟ ما علاقة جائحة كورونا العالمية بالبيئة؟ هل البلدان العربية على الطريق الصحيح لتحقيق الهدف الثالث من أهداف التنمية المستدامة؟ هذه بعض العناوين على جدول أعمال المؤتمر السنوي الثالث عشر للمنتدى العربي للبيئة والتنمية AFED، الذي يعقد افتراضياً بالتعاون مع الجامعة الأمريكية في بيروت. الصحة والبيئة في البلدان العربية 10 و11 تشرين الثاني نوفمبر 2020.
Good morning all from all around the world. We have with us today 650 delegates who registered. Some of them are joining in hubs. We were planning to have a hub in Beirut also. It was not allowed. But you can see the hub in Bahrain, so the Arab Gulf University are joining us in Bahrain as a group. Our chairman, His Excellency, Dr. Adnan Badran, our host, Dr. Fadl Khouri, president of the American University of Beirut. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Marco Lambertini, Director General of WWF, the biggest environmental organization in the world, actually. Dr. Khalid Al-Ghouhali, President of the Arabian Gulf University, and his colleagues joining us as a group from Bahrain, speakers and delegates. Welcome to AFED's first virtual conference. It is the 13th actually, and we hope it will lead to concrete recommendations and trigger actual positive changes and action in the health and environment arena. Although the environment has always impacted human health and well-being, the interconnectedness between the two is especially highlighted now with the world in the grip of coronavirus pandemic. Good news today, we start our conference with the first concrete news of a vaccine. Given this context, the topic of the 2020 annual report of AFED, Health and Environment in Arab countries, is particularly timely and relevant. One key observation of the report is that the pandemic exposed multiple vulnerabilities and shortcomings of the Arab healthcare systems. Producing the report was in itself a challenging endeavor, not only due to the stressful working conditions created by the pandemic, which put limits on normal interaction, but also due to the consequences of the financial collapse in Lebanon on AFED's operations. This was compounded by the Beirut port explosion, which badly affected AFED Secretariat and its partners, damaging our offices and facilities, including many facilities at our host campus, the American University of Beirut. Besides the human and economic tragedy felt by our staff, both at AFED and AUB. Combined with the unsettled situation in the region, this has resulted in a disturbing drop in funding from traditional partners and sponsors, threatening the continued existence of AFED itself. And I am sad to announce this news now. This report is the 13th in the series of the State of Arab Environment. You can see them here, 13 reports which were produced over the past years. They highlighted environmental challenges and recommended solutions and inspired policy changes, knowledge sharing and actions across the Arab region. It has covered many topics, including climate change, water, energy, green economy, ecological footprint, sustainable consumption, financing sustainable development, environmental education, and others. The AFED 2020 report discusses the main environmental drivers that impact various aspects of human health in the Arab region and proposes an action plan leading to the region meeting Sustainable Development Goal 3, Health for All. AFED wishes to thank all institutional partners, experts and researchers who contributed to this report, including universities, international organizations, and major players in the environmental health domain. Academic AFED members among universities across the Arab region played key role in developing the report. The core content partners were the American University of Beirut, the Faculty of Health Sciences, which is also hosting our conference. Our control room now is at AUB. And you saw at the beginning some images of the beautiful AUB. We have also researchers from the Arabian Gulf University in Bahrain, Cairo University, and Alexandria University in Egypt. The report also received major contribution from the World Health Organization Regional Center for Environmental Health Action based in Amman. And thank you, Dr. Basil Al-Yusufi, Director of the Center, who is with us today. Special thanks to those few who sponsored the report this year, including mainly the Kuwait Foundation for the Advancement of Science, KEFAS, the Islamic Development Bank, ISDB, and the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO. It is hoped that the report, by highlighting the interrelation between environment and human health, will help to enhance environmental management in Arab countries in such a way to better protect human health and to invigorate the health systems to better respond to the impact of environmental factors. On behalf of the authors and in my role as co-editor of the report, I am pleased to present the main findings of AFED report, Health and the Environment in Arab Countries, in bullet points. And those we shall show on screen in Arabic and English. Overview of the report: over 676,000 Arab citizens will lose their lives prematurely in 2020 due to exposure to environmental risks, conventional ones. Diseases mostly driven and impacted by environmental causes in the Arab countries include cardiovascular diseases, diarrheal diseases, respiratory infections, and cancers. The main environmental risks of these diseases, the main environmental risk drivers of these diseases are ambient and household air pollution, lack of access to clean water, marine pollution, uncontrolled urbanization, land degradation, and exposure to waste and harmful chemicals. Water. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the lack of access to safely managed water, sanitation, and hygiene wash services. 50 million Arabs have no access to basic drinking water services, and 74 million people in the region are with no access to basic sanitation services. The poor services of water cause 40,000 premature avoidable deaths annually. Only 9 of the 22 Arab countries are on track to achieve SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation. Wars and refugees increase the stress on the already scarce water resources. Countries should develop and implement water and sanitation programs, commit to financing and advance the enabling conditions that make strong policies, laws, and plans possible. Air. Levels of air pollution exceed the WHO limits by 5 to 10 times. Several Arab cities are among the 20 most polluted cities in the world. Significant rise in number of deaths attributed to indoor and outdoor air pollution, cardiopulmonary disease, cancer incidence, and more cases of asthma. Coronavirus gave an added sense of urgency to enhancing air quality. As studies have shown, evidence of the relationship between air pollution and the increase in and acuteness of cases. Need to improve health risk assessments based on air monitoring and modeling studies, which provide Arab policymakers with the right control tools to reduce the public health impact of air pollution. Solid waste. Solid waste generation has been increasing at an alarming rate in the Arab region due to population growth and changing production and consumption patterns. Health problems attributed to solid waste mismanagement are respiratory disorders, eye infections, and gastrointestinal diseases. 53% of all generated waste indiscriminately disposed of in an unsanitary manner. The COVID-19 pandemic has increased the use of single-use items such as masks and gloves, generating more hazardous waste. Replacing outdated waste facilities with new ones that can reduce associated health risks and halt the dispersion of pollutants. Circular and 3R centric approach, reduce, reuse, recycle, to waste management is critical to reduce the harmful impact of waste on human health and nature. Marine environment. Direct discharge of untreated sewage in coastal zones, offshore oil exploration and extraction, and microplastics have impacted the health of the Arab population. Arab countries produce an estimated 12 billion cubic meters per year of wastewater. Only 60% is treated, half of the treated water is reused only, all the remaining is discharged mainly in the sea. Untreated sewage can lead to the spread of pathogens that cause disease in humans. More research is needed to explore the direct impact of the state of the marine environment on human health in the Arab region, with focus on pathogens, toxin transfer to humans, and antimicrobial resistance. Climate change. Direct impact of climate change include cardiovascular disease, respiratory diseases, heat stroke, injuries, and fatalities. A 1% increase in average temperature is expected to lead to 3% increase in mortality from all causes in the Arab region. Public health issues are generally missing in national climate change adaptation strategies in Arab countries. The region is largely lacking national adaptation plans that address legislative and advisory responses based on projected health risks to heat waves, extreme weather events, air pollution, and infectious diseases. Arab countries need to gain a better understanding of the various factors influencing the impact of climate change on human health in order to design effective mitigation and adaptation strategies. Overall, the experience, the expertise in health and environment related disciplines across the Arab countries is needed. Exchange of expertise is needed, with regional cooperation intensified, encompassing emergency preparedness to face health and environmental diseases. Establishing a primary health care system, including health education, is an urgent task. And here we are in an education institute, a big one, which has with others a big role to play in this field. Ultimately, regional strategies setting common goals to achieve the SDGs are required. The AFED report demonstrates that a healthy environment is a prerequisite to healthy people. So here I tried to give you a general view of the findings of the AFED report. So I had two roles, that's why I was assigned 15 minutes more than others to welcome you and present the main findings of the report. I would like now to welcome chairman of AFED Board of Trustees, His Excellency Dr. Adnan Badran, who joins us from his office at Petra University in Amman, to welcome us and just give us his view on the matter. Dr. Badran, you are welcome to start. And I say something that we try to mix English and Arabic. In our face-to-face conferences, we have interpretation. Now we try to just fix it in a way to mix and to have some slides to show in other language, because we have people who don't speak Arabic from around the world, while we surveyed that 90% or 95% of those who join can understand English. So, Dr. Badran, choose the language you like.
Thanks, Najib. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I'm going to speak in Arabic language, but will be slides shown to the audience in English. Dear colleagues, زملاء الكرام عن قرب أو عن بعد، كالعادة في شهر نوفمبر من كل عام نحن على موعد مع نجيب صعب، أمين عام المنتدى العربي للتنمية والبيئة، لتقديم التقرير يحضره الجميع لأفد، وهذا العام بعنوان الصحة والبيئة في البلدان العربية. الطبيعة في كوكبنا لها اليد العليا في التوازن البيئي بين مكوناته للحفاظ على نظام بيئي مستدام ومتجدد لهذا الكون. أي خلل يصيبه تلجأ الطبيعة بطبيعتها لمعالجتها جيولوجيا أو بيولوجيا لاستعادة نظمه البيئية والتنوع biodiversity، التنوع البيولوجي فيه. والنظام البيئي للأرض بما فيها من محيطات وبحار وبحيرات وأنهار ويابسة، ومكوناتها من مخزون جيولوجي وبيولوجي يشكل منظومة واحدة مهما تجزأت الجغرافيا والديموغرافيا بحدود سياسية. لذا على العالم التعامل معها ككتلة بشرية واحدة تخصنا جميعا، يظهر فيها الترابط بين البشر والحيوانات والبيئة، مما يستدعي علاقة جديدة وذكية مع الطبيعة. ففقدان التنوع البيولوجي وتلوث الهواء والماء يهدد نظم الإنتاج الزراعي والغذائي الصحي. لقد فرض علينا هذا الوباء جائحة كورونا كوفيد-19 واقعا اقتصاديا واجتماعيا صعبا، نتيجة بصمتنا الشديدة على الطبيعة التي أدت إلى تغيير جذري في انتقال وانتشار الأمراض لتتحول إلى وباء وجائحة كونية وبسرعة مخيفة. وهذا يفرض علينا أيها الإخوة، يفرض علينا التعاون في نهج صحي واحد متكامل للحفاظ على صحة الإنسانية في نظام بيئي مترابط بين النبات والحيوان والإنسان والحياة بمجملها، لبناء قدرات للتعامل مع هذه الأوبئة وتداعياتها والحد من مخاطرها الاقتصادية والاجتماعية. وفي هذا الصدد علينا أن نتذكر التاريخ، تاريخ الأوبئة التي اجتاحت الإنسانية. فالطاعون، الوباء البكتيري الذي اجتاح الإمبراطورية الرومانية ما بين عامي 165 و262 بعد الميلاد، وقضى على ثلث سكان الإمبراطورية، واجتاح مرة أخرى أوروبا عام 1347 وقتل نصف سكانها البالغ آنذاك 80 مليون. وها هو فيروس كورونا 19 يصيب وفقا لمنظمة الصحة العالمية 51 مليون و244 ألف حالة إصابة، ويسبب وفاة 1,269,000 ألف وفاة في العالم حتى تاريخ 10/11/2020، ويلقي بتداعياته الاقتصادية والاجتماعية، ويسبب إغلاقا شبه كاملا للمدن والمجمعات الإنسانية، مع أن كوكب الأرض استفاد جزئيا بيئيا من ذلك من ارتفاع جودة الهواء والماء وانخفاض انبعاثات ثاني أكسيد الكربون المسؤول عن 72% من ظاهرة الاحتباس الحراري، وانخفاض استهلاك الفحم والوقود الأحفوري، وانطلاق غير مسبوق للطيور والحيوانات البرية. العلاقة بين الصحة والبيئة لا تزال ضعيفة في المنطقة العربية للأسف، مع أنه صدرت الاستراتيجية العربية للصحة والبيئة في إطار عمل للفترة 2017 إلى 2030 في سعيها المتسق لتقليص عبء المرض والعجز والموت المبكر الناجم عن المخاطر البيئية، وكذلك في تنسيق أنشطة جامعة الدول العربية ومنظمة الصحة العالمية وبرنامج الأمم المتحدة للبيئة لدعم هذه الجهود. ومع جائحة فيروس الكورونا جاء تقرير AFED السنوي 13 بعنوان الصحة والبيئة في البلدان العربية في فصوله 7 يبين العلاقة بين الصحة من جهة والمياه والهواء والنفايات وتغير المناخ وتلوث المحيطات من الجهة الأخرى، ضمن أهداف التنمية المستدامة للأمم المتحدة SDGs الصحة للجميع. وقد أشار وزراء البيئة العرب في اجتماعهم في البحرين في شهر أغسطس من عام 2020 الحالي بدعوة من الإسكوام أن جائحة الكورونا ساهمت في زيادة إنتاج النفايات الطبية والبلاستيكية في المنطقة العربية، وإن الجائحة رغم تأثيراتها الإيجابية على البيئة لكنها مؤقتة، وتبقى التحديات البيئية أولوية عند العودة إلى الحياة الطبيعية، ومع اعتماد الحكومات خططا لتحفيز الاقتصاد، مما يتطلب وضع وتنفيذ سياسة وخطط استراتيجية لإعادة البناء بشكل أفضل، وتنمية اجتماعية واقتصادية أكثر ابتكارا وشمولية ومستدامة بيئيا. ربما أيها الأخوة هذه فرصتنا في العالم العربي لارتياد الاقتصاد الأخضر لاستعادة ما فقدناه بسبب الجائحة، حيث بلغت كلفتها على البلدان العربية بما لا يقل عن 42 مليار دولار و1.7 مليون وظيفة وفق التقديرات الأولية. وفي الختام الشكر والتقدير للعاملين في الأمانة العامة AFED على جهودهم المتميزة في إصدار هذا التقرير السنوي حول الصحة والبيئة في البلدان العربية، والشكر والتقدير للباحثين وللمراكز البحثية والمنظمات الدولية والجامعات المشاركة، وعلى الأخص أذكر الجامعة الأمريكية في بيروت لاستضافتها لهذا المؤتمر. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
شكرا دكتور بدران. Thank you, Dr. Badran. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Fadlu Khouri, the president of the American University of Beirut. We have many doctors around, but Dr. Khouri is a medical doctor and a prominent researcher in the medical field. So we are all ears to listen to you, Dr. Khouri.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Badran. Colleagues, friends, it's my pleasure to be with you today and to welcome you to the American University of Beirut. We at AUB are proud to be partnering with AFED to hold this unique and much needed gathering of experts as we face the onslaught of multiple crises that have serious implications for the health and well-being of this region's people and environment. And the report that Dr. Saab just discussed was of great interest for all of us, and having seen it, I would recommend you read the full report that he so nicely summarized. This year, of course, has witnessed dramatic and unprecedented challenges worldwide to public health, food systems, education, people's livelihoods, and their businesses. The development gains seen in many countries over the past several decades could well be erased in 2020. The COVID pandemic is a major driver of these hardships. Many countries were already facing crises before the virus outbreak. Lebanon being a prime example, and these have only been exacerbated by COVID-19. You can hear a polluting plane fly over me as we speak. The 18th century political philosopher and revolutionary activist Thomas Paine, who quit his native England to move to America at the time of their revolution, penned these famous words, which General George Washington read out to his beleaguered troops before they crossed the Delaware River. These are the times that try men's souls. I'm sure that every man and every woman here can relate to that. The economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic has been devastating. According to the World Health Organization, tens of millions of people are at risk for falling into extreme poverty. Nearly half of the world's 3.3 billion global workforce would lose their jobs, while the number of unnourished people could increase to over 800 million by the end of this year. The world's food system is also struggling today as farmers lose access to markets, whether it is to purchase inputs or to sell produce. Agriculture workers who are often self-employed and lack adequate labor protection are facing unemployment and extreme poverty. Those are the people who feed the rest of us. Our environment is also at greater risk, despite the popular notion that the COVID-19 pandemic has been good for the environment. Environmental issues are being given much less priority by governments and leaders due to other crises they are facing. In China this past May, as that country emerged from lockdown and factories looked to make up for lost time, pollution surged to pre-pandemic levels and more than occasionally surpassed them. In Brazil, illegal loggers actually accelerated their deforestation of the Amazon rainforest in the midst of the pandemic, clearing 64% more land in April 2020 compared to the same time in April 2019. As you all know, the list of such environmental disasters could perhaps go on forever. The environment, food security, public health, employment, and labor issues are all interconnected, and all are spiraling downward in Lebanon and in the global south. Now, more than ever, is the time for action and solidarity across borders and societies. So here's where universities can play a major role in hopefully building a better tomorrow or a better new normal. This can be done through research, educational programs, informing public policy, and simply encouraging our youth to learn how to examine the facts so that they can become and do better than we have done. Going back to Thomas Paine, he also gave us these inspiring words written at the outset of the revolution and at the beginning of the great American experiment, an experiment that has seemed particularly at risk during these turbulent times and yet was reinforced by the results of the democratic election that found for a president with far more interest in the environment than his soon-to-be predecessor. Thomas Paine said, "We have the power to begin the world over again." That indeed is what we must now all do together. We need to remake the world to be more inclusive, more sustainable, more fair, more equitable. That is the ultimate goal of this report and so much of what we all endeavor to do. It cannot happen overnight and it will not be easy, but if we persist and give it our all, I am confident that we will prevail. I am personally grateful for the very hard work that has been put into creating this report, and I know the university is proud of Najib Saab and the team of AFED. We all look forward to seeing how it can and will contribute to planning health-related programs throughout the beleaguered Arab region. As educators, scientists, and concerned citizens, it is our duty to do all we can to ensure a better, more sustainable, more inclusive world for our generation and the generations to follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khoury. Dr. Mike Ryan of WHO maybe luckily could not join us today because of his busy schedule, especially today for following Corona, and he is the WHO executive mainly responsible for this matter. So we have with us Dr. Basil El-Yousfi, the regional director of the WHO Environment Office in Amman. He will talk in the first session. So now we move directly to Mr. Marco Lambertini, Director General of the World Wildlife Fund, WWF. As I said, it's the biggest environmental organization in the world and the most rich also, but it uses all its funds for work more than for administration. And I am a witness to this. Mr. Lambertini will talk about health, COVID-19, and nature. So we are all ears.
Thank you very, very much for the opportunity and the congratulations for yet continuing to hold an event like this despite all the difficulties of the COVID pandemic. It's my pleasure to share some reflections, and I will start sharing actually a short presentation to help me. So you can see the presentation. Very good. So yes, we are definitely living extraordinary times. Before even talking about COVID-19, I want to remind everybody, I know you are familiar with these figures, but I think it's always important to remind ourselves of the seriousness of the impact of our current development model and economic model on the planet, the infrastructure that supports our economy, in fact, as our society. We have already passed the 1 degree of global temperature increase. We're driving more than 1 million species to extinction. We have seen a 2/3 decline of global wildlife population in less than 50 years. We've lost half of the forest, half of the coral reefs, 80% of the wetlands, 90% of the fish stocks in the ocean are either fully fished or overfished, and I could continue. There is no room for complacency. We are at the point where we have to correct our course of development as a society. We're beginning to see also things we've never seen before. Just not even a decade ago, we started to see that even the hottest, warmest water in the tropical regions are getting so hot that corals that has been evolved 250 million years ago are not coping and dying off and bleaching, like in the picture here on the slide. But also we are beginning to understand that science has never been clearer that our impact is not just localized to specific places where we are having an impact. We're actually beginning to affect global systems, from the Atlantic Gulf Stream to the Indian summer monsoon to large ecosystems like the Amazon or the Antarctic and the Arctic ice sheets, and coral reefs around the world. These are global systems and global ecosystems that are fundamental to maintain the stability of the planet that we have enjoyed in the last 10,000 years, and has been the foundation of our such a rapid human development, particularly in the last 1,000 years. The good news in all this bad news is that today we know the problems, we know, frankly, most of the solutions, but perhaps most importantly, we are beginning to understand some important interdependencies. We've been taking all these issues in isolation, in silos, one by one. We're beginning to understand that actually they are interconnected. And for example, climate change, the loss of nature. There's a lot of attention to climate change, and rightly so, being one of the most important challenges that's facing against society. But we are beginning to realize that actually we're not going to be able to solve climate change if we don't also conserve the natural systems that today sequester a lot of carbon, store a lot of carbon, have the potential to contribute to at least 30% of the mitigation of climate change in the next 2 decades. So the connectivity between climate change and nature loss, it's becoming evident, and we have to treat these two issues as one interdependent challenge. But perhaps more importantly and more excitingly, we're beginning to understand the consequences on us of our impact on nature. This is really something new, because we've been taking nature for granted for so long, and we've been based our development model on an unsustainable use of natural resources. Finally, we're beginning to understand that we are pushing the environmental systems to their limit, and this is beginning to have a direct impact on us, our economy, our society, our well-being, our health. There are many reports now highlighting how the economy is depending so much on the environment. And so nature loss and climate change are actually beginning to be a clear economic risk and cost to our society. And I would invite you to look at this particular last report of the World Economic Forum that makes a strong case for how our economy is so dependent on services and goods that nature provides to us every day for free, from pollination of our crops to fish in the ocean and rivers to coastal protection, stability of the local climate, and so on and so forth. But nature loss and climate change, if they represent a risk and a cost today, they could represent a major economic opportunity. And this is the focus that many are putting on so-called green growth, a growth that continues to offer development opportunity to the region of the world that they need it, but in a way that does not destabilize the climate any longer and does not degrade the environment and lose nature. These are so-called nature positive and climate neutral pathways. And there are plenty of opportunities in a number of sectors to continue that in a way that does not destabilize climate and lose nature. To the health issue, what the COVID pandemic has brought into focus is the need to get our relationship with the planet. This is perhaps the most profound and important lesson that we should learn from this tragic crisis. And if you look at the history of the emergence of zoonotic diseases that are jumping from one animal and over the years, and there is actually an increase of the emergence of these diseases over time as well. And the report is adding important voice to a number of reports, and together making a really compelling case for why, in order to prevent pandemics, we need to look at nature. We need to look at our relationship with nature. COVID-19 is the indicator of balance relationship, particularly with natural systems in the animal world, both with animals and domesticated animals. And if you think that 75% is the data from the WHO, 75% of new infectious diseases come from animals, either wild or domesticated, it makes immediate how critical it is to focus on nature conservation in order to prevent future pandemics. We're all celebrating the discovery of a vaccine, of course, the fundamental step forward now, but we have to invest more attention and more resources in preventing the pandemic, not just hoping for the best and rush to find a next vaccine when thousands, in this case, hundreds of thousands of lives are already lost. And when it comes to our relationship with nature and pandemics, also nature, there are three major areas that have been highlighted very clearly by a number of reports. The first one is the wildlife trade. It's still a huge, most of the time, unknown wildlife trade and consumption around the world that has exposed humans to pathogens in animals for many, many years. Even the HIV virus linked to consumption of wildlife in South Africa, and there was on a major play for humanity in the last diseases. So, curbing wildlife trade and consumption, not only indigenous subsistence consumption, together industrial trade that is happening around the world is now the fourth illicit trade after arms. Second area is deforestation. This is less direct. But deforestation is a major event and exposure of humans to wild animals and therefore pathogens they may host. By increasing access to forests, but also by displacing people entering contact with villages and nearby. And this is demonstrated really for a number of diseases in the past, like the disease in management. And finally, industrial animal farming. This has to do with the wild animals, in fact, about the animals that we domesticate and raise and farm. The industrial concentration of these animals, they foraging very often are perfect conditions for viruses and potentially transmitted to humans as well. And you follow the latest in Denmark, which is
It seems that we were facing technical problem, which is not expected from Switzerland. Dr. Lambertini is talking from Geneva. So until we can join again, maybe just we get.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can continue. I was almost finishing, and I think I'm not sure you've been able to follow the slides until now.
I can hear you, but I can't. Can you see the image? We cannot see the image.
Can you see the image now?
Yes, you're very good. Yes.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Did you see the slides until now? Did you manage to see my slides?
Yes, we did. Yes, we
Yes.
did.
Yes. Okay.
Just confirming. So I'm almost finished. Apologies about that. I'm not sure what happened. But my point here was that these three main factors, wildlife trade, deforestation, industrial farming, are the ones we need to really focus on and find solution to, because this is the investment that will prevent the next pandemics. And finally, let me jump to a final conclusion. We have two major opportunities in our hands for governments, for business, for society to deal with these issues. One is, of course, the next year, what we call the super year for the environmental sustainability. Many large global agreements on climate, on biodiversity, on the ocean, on food are actually materializing in 2021. And this is the opportunity to look at these agreements and the targets and the investment that this agreement should agree on to really try to tackle the drivers of pandemics like COVID, in particular deforestation and in particular wildlife trade. this is the opportunity to bring the world together with strong commitment to curb deforestation and wildlife trade. And that will be the best insurance for humanity against pandemics in the future. The second opportunity is to use the recovery packages, the investment that will be injected in the economy to recover from the COVID-19 crisis, and use those investments to drive a shift, particularly in the way we produce our food. If you look at deforestation, if you look at wildlife trade, and if you look at animal farming, all is connected to our food system. So focusing on the food system, greening it, reducing its impact, and increasing its sustainability, both social and environmental, is going to be critical. The trillions of dollars that around the world are being injected in the economy could help to speed up, accelerate that transition towards a more sustainable and pandemic risk-free food system. So I will stop here just by saying we have the opportunity as a society now to learn the lesson and learn it quickly, because humans forget quite rapidly. So now is the time to act. Now is the time to take on the lessons from the COVID-19 crisis and embrace a vision for a future which is equitable, carbon neutral, and nature positive. That's the best opportunity we have to create a safe, just future for our children, their children, and all life on Earth. And so I'll finish here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you about our perspectives on the COVID-19 crisis, health and nature, and congratulations again for the event and for the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marco. I mean, I knew you were the best one to talk about this with passion and with information. Now, we didn't have planned for questions and answers for the opening session, but we are lucky that we are efficient. We still have 10 minutes. So I would like to ask the panelists, because the delegates are not connected for this session, to ask questions. Those who are connected are the panelists and the Arabian Gulf University with their hub. So first I would ask, is there any question to Dr. Lambertini from the panel, from the speakers? You can just raise your hand, you know how to use. For the panels, you don't have to raise your hand. You just talk. Dr. Khoui, any question to Mr. Lambertini?
No, I enjoyed his talk. I do think that the environmental changes are accelerating, as Dr. Lambertini pointed out, to a greater degree than people realize. And one of the things universities have to do is to teach people to tell the truth, given all the alternate realities that are being put out there by the anti-environmentalists. My question for Marco is, how do you plan to combat this? Because people who gravitate, like our kids and us, to the World Wildlife Fund are people who naturally ignore this and want to shoot anything that they can, legally or illegally. So how do you plan to reach out to a broader audience, including the sort of climate change deniers?
Thank you very much, Dr. Khoui. This is a tricky question. Of course, we are doing our best to try to actually move the narrative from the moral duty of conserving nature, which has been effectively the narrative supporting the environmental movement for many, many decades, to the realization that actually nature is fundamental to us. Is not just a moral duty, is actually a survival issue, is an economic issue, is a social issue, is a development issue. In fact, it's an equity and justice issue, because the most vulnerable communities around the world, the poorest of the world, are going to suffer first and more because of nature loss and because of climate change. So I think our attempt to combat what you just said, cultural resistance to this, is to actually connect nature conservation and climate stability to our development, to our well-being. And frankly, COVID-19 has really, unfortunately, helped us with this, because it's creating this direct link between what we do to nature and what could happen to us. So this is the new narrative that I think we are promoting, and is a narrative that is pretty convincing, we hope, And we can see a lot of business leaders, a lot of government leaders really responding very positively now that we realize that actually the ones who pay the price for nature loss, it's not the pandas and the tigers, it's mainly people.
I agree. If I could just make a quick follow-up point, Najib, Dr. Badran, Marco, one of the opportunities that we miss is to introduce this early. So I think by the time they get to college, kids have some formed beliefs, some of which have nothing to do with reality. But I'd love to see this taught in elementary schools and junior high schools. I think this would be a time, you know, we know the period of greatest neurological plasticity is ages almost 3 to just under 7. To start with this into the elementary school, curriculum. Who knows, Najib, given the failure of any kind of healthy nationalism in this region, maybe you can teach them environmentalism.
I mean, I remind you, last year, AFED report was environmental education. Also, AUB was heavily involved. Actually, we introduced the report in November 2019, and we started on the spot visits to many universities in the region, agreeing with them to introduce an introductory course, Environment 101, to just be given to open to every student, whether he is studying history or geography or mathematics or medicine, just to be open to every student, like culture 101, like 101 course. And we reached advanced level in our discussions. The last meeting we had was in March 2020 in Bahrain, and it was the day when they started reporting COVID in Bahrain, and the whole world went upside down. I talk about the first university, whatever. Our report also mentioned exactly what you say, and Dr. Badran is a big proponent of this, that environment and nature should be included in the curricula from first levels. I tell Dr. Lambertini, just personal experience, my grandson, who is 2.5 years old, living near you in Geneva, he just, I mean, when I don't know what an animal is, I show him the photo on Zoom, and he knows all animals what they are. So these things actually start from the beginning. That's why WWF, it's Worldwide Wildlife Fund. Some people think it's only animals.
Right.
But I mean, it's an environmental organization, actually. One of the best reports published about COVID and its relation to its nature origins was produced mainly by WWF.
Thank you.
We have a question. We have a comment here.
Yes, I think Dr. Badran wanted to say something.
Yeah, just really, I have enjoyed the speech.
I moved to Arabian Gulf University to Bahrain. Dr. Walid Zubari had a comment. So we are listening, Walid.
It is okay. You hear me? Yeah? Okay. Can you hear me?
No.
Yes, you can hear you.
Okay. You talked about the environmental awareness at an early age, but I think what we have also to talk about is the research interface between the environment and the health, which I think in preparing this report, you had a hard problem in getting really evidence-based, studies to tell you the impact of environment on the health. And I think this is a call for more cooperation between the College of Medicine and the science colleges. They can, join the efforts and try to produce environmental health studies. And I think in the Arab region, I think we have a shortage of that a lot. Even in my university, we are having the medical college with the natural resources and the environment. They are not working together, but I think this is a very good call to start doing this. And I would like to hear from Najib how much difficulties you had in preparing this report as an evidence-based report based on science and actual data, because our experience here in the region, we don't have data on the impact of environment on the health.
Any comment from the speakers?
Yes.
Dr. Lambertini, it seems you have something to say. We can't hear you now.
It's a really powerful point, and he highlights the issue that we mentioned earlier. It's we're dealing with the different disciplines in isolation, and I think we've got to now understand that more integration, more interdisciplinary approaches are required to really connect the dots and find the right solutions that are based on the full understanding of the issues, and particularly when you talk about biology, medicine, and environment. This is where really the interdisciplinary. It's a very, very, very strong, valid point.
Thank you all. It was, to me, it was interesting at least, and I think our participants continued to follow the whole session. One of the advantages of virtual meetings is that they start on time, they finish on time. We cannot play with time because others have to follow. So it's exactly time to finish. It's exactly time for others to start. So thanks a lot for all the speakers. Thanks for making time for this. We are continuing today in 2 sessions, as you know. Tomorrow, 2 sessions, and we shall finish our conference. For the attendees, all the presentations and the texts will be displayed just on time on our websites. And just to know, if you have any friend not registered, because we could not take more, we had 700 registered, you can watch the whole conference for free without registration on AUB and AFED social media outlets.